Look at that. I mean, it doesn't get more perfect than that. That is some nice sandwich bread. Today I'm going to show you exactly how to make bread just like this using fresh milled flour. Welcome y'all to Robyn on the Farm. Today I'm sharing with you my very favorite sandwich bread made with fresh milled flour. This is a honey wheat bread. Now you might think, oh, wheat bread's gonna be a little dense. No, this is a nice, soft, fluffy sandwich bread. It is really good. To start out with, I'm gonna use my Bosch Universal Mixer. This is a great mixer. I burned through so many KitchenAids in my early days of making breads because the motor is just not as strong as these Bosch mixers. These Bosch mixers are great. Today, this recipe is gonna make 2 loaves. Let me just show you how to make it. You will want 1 cup of hot water, about 110 degrees. Just pour that right into your bowl. Now, if you only have a KitchenAid, go ahead and use it. It's totally fine. Use it, but if you have any problems with it, just know that I totally recommend the Bosch's. Okay, next we want 1 cup of warm milk. This is my whole milk. You can use any kind of milk that you want. So just 1 cup of milk, put it right on in there. And then we want 1/3 cup of melted butter. You can also use 1/3 cup of any kind of oil that you want, but you just need that fat in there to give it a really good texture. So 1/3 cup of melted butter. Then we want 1/3 cup of honey. This is gonna make it taste so good. So 1/3 cup of honey. I spray my little containers before I put the honey in there, and it just helps it come out much easier than if you don't. Our next ingredient is eggs. You're gonna want 2 eggs. I went ahead and cracked them and put them in here so I wouldn't have to wash my hands, but you're just gonna throw in 2 eggs right into your mixing bowl. And then we want 2 teaspoons of salt. So just pour that right on in there. Next ingredient is our flour. So this is my fresh milled flour. This is hard white winter wheat, and it is some good stuff. You can use anything that you want, any kind of whole grain. You can use red wheat, kamut, you can use anything, but I have a ton of whole wheat stored, so I usually use red wheat and white wheat. Okay, so I want 5½ cups of this fresh milled flour. And I just milled this up. I milled it up in my Nutrimill back there. And to get the very best benefits of fresh milled flour, you want to mill up your flour right before you use it. Now, sometimes that's not always possible. If you have some left over, you can just put it in your freezer or your refrigerator, and that'll help the nutrients kind of stay in there. But for the very best nutritional value, you want to mill it up right before you use it because the nutritional value starts decreasing pretty quickly after you mill it. Okay, 5½ cups. I really enjoy milling my own flour. I really like it. That thing will mill it up really quickly. It's really not a hassle at all. I enjoy it. I like doing it. I find the whole process of bread making to be kind of therapeutic, and it's a time when I can think, and I just really enjoy it. So if you find bread making to be kind of stressful, just learn how to do it and then stick with the recipes that you know and you like, and then you will start to enjoy it and figure it out a little bit better. I highly suggest bread making. I think it's a fantastic hobby and pastime. Okay, now we have our 5½ cups of fresh milled flour in there. Now normally, you go ahead and put your yeast in. But for this sandwich bread, we're gonna do a process called Autolyze. Now, autolyzing is basically a fancy term in bread making that will just let our fresh milled flour kind of absorb some liquid before we add the yeast. So we're using the Autolyze method. This will make our bread even softer and fluffier because we're doing this. But this is what we're gonna do to Autolyze. We are going to let this mix up just until it's combined. I'm just gonna do it for about 2 minutes, and then you let it sit. You can let it sit anywhere from 15 minutes at the least to about 3 hours. I've gone anywhere in between that. And sometimes that's nice when you're busy and you just have some other things to do. But I'm gonna let this sit here at least 15 minutes after I mix it, and then I'm gonna add the yeast. So I'll show that to you in just a minute. I just let all of the ingredients except the yeast mix for about 3 or 4 minutes. Now take a look at our dough. It is way sticky, isn't it? That is what you want it to be like as you go into the Autolyze period, because as this dough sits, the fresh milled flour will be able to absorb some more of the liquids. And that is what helps us get a nice, soft, fluffy sandwich bread. So this is looking just right. So I'm gonna let this sit here for at least 15 minutes, and then I will show it to you after that. And then we will add our yeast and do another knead. All of the ingredients except our yeast have been autolyzing for about 45 minutes. Now is the step to add our yeast. Now, this is instant yeast. I usually use active dry yeast for everything, but when I autolyze, I use instant yeast. And that's just because you add it last and everything's already incorporated, and instant yeast just works better for this. So I'm gonna add a tablespoon of instant yeast. I am just gonna add it right on in there. I'm just gonna kind of pour it all over it. And then I am gonna turn this on to speed 2 and let it knead for about 10 minutes. And I'll show it to you at that point. Now that it's kneading with the yeast, I'm gonna go ahead and add some more fresh milled flour so that it's not too sticky. I also don't want it too dry so that it's not too dense, but you definitely don't want it this sticky. So I'm gonna go ahead and add about another cup of fresh milled flour. So this recipe needs about 6.5 to 7 cups of fresh milled flour. Okay, I can tell that my dough has changed consistency as it has been kneading, which is exactly right. So I am looking for a stretchy dough that doesn't break. I'm trying to find a window pane. So a window pane is when you stretch your dough and you can see through it, but it doesn't break. So I'm gonna let this knead for a few more minutes until I get it to that consistency. Okay, check out this dough. This is what we want. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. I probably can't. I might have to show it to you a different way. But let's see, it's almost there. You can start to see through it. If I had 2 hands, I could show you better, but it's a window pane without breaking. That is exactly how we wanted our dough. So this dough is ready. It is looking great. Okay, my dough has been kneading for about 15 minutes. It can take anywhere from 10 minutes to 20 minutes till it passes the window pane test. Now the window pane test is when you can stretch your dough and it doesn't break, but you can see light through it. Can you see that? That's the window pane test. So this one passes the window pane test. Let me try it again. You get a little bit and you kind of stretch it, stretch it, stretch it, and you can see light through it without it breaking right away. It's ready. That is the window pane test, and this dough passed the window pane test. The next part is to let it rise. So I am going to spray this big bowl right here. And I am just gonna plop this dough into this bowl, and I'm gonna cover it with this warm, wet tea towel, and I am going to let it rise. It could be an hour, it could be 2 hours, just kind of depends on how warm or cool it is in your home, and you want it to about double in size. You wanna get kind of fluffy and double in size. So I'm gonna let this sit on my counter for an hour to 2 hours, and I will show you what it should look like at that point. Our fresh milled flour honey wheat sandwich bread dough has been rising for about an hour, hour and a half. Ooh, look at that. Look how well that has risen. That looks fantastic. That's exactly what you want it to look like. Okay, from here, I'm gonna punch it down, divide it, and shape it into loaves. So even though this looks so pretty right now, I'm gonna go ahead and punch it down. It's deflating. I could hear the air come out of it. Okay. This looks absolutely fantastic. Okay. Now, you can weigh it and measure it, or you can just try to eyeball it and divide it in half like I'm gonna do. It's okay if they're a little bit different sizes, it's fine. Okay, so this makes 2 loaves of bread. So now it's time just to shape it. I'm gonna take this half of the dough and I am going to press it out, press it out, press it out. Time to shape it into a loaf of bread. So I do the head down, shoulders in method. So basically, you just pull the head down the top, and then you pull in the shoulders or the sides, and then you press it together like that, and then you press it all out with the palms of your hand, nice and flat, and then you take it and you roll it nice and tight all the way down. Now this will give you some really great crumb, give you a nice tight crumb This will also give you really good surface tension so that you get a really pretty shape of loaf of bread when you get done. So I like that. I like to have a pretty loaf of bread after all this work. Now this might seem like a lot of work, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. So it's really not that bad. Okay, so you can kind of be rough with it, pat it out, pinch all the seams together, and there we go. So you want it to be about as long as your loaf pan. I'm gonna use my cast iron loaf pans. I have used glass, tin, stoneware. These are the best loaf pans ever. Cast iron just bakes things so evenly and so nicely. Doesn't burn on the bottom, doesn't burn on the sides. It's just really fantastic. So I love cooking in my cast iron bread pans. There we go. I have lots of cast iron, but the bread pans are my absolute favorite. Probably because I use them more than anything else. Okay, so now I'm gonna make another loaf out of this one. You could, if you didn't want 2 loaves of bread, you could take this one and make 12 rolls out of it. That would be a great thing to do. Or you can make cinnamon bread or just anything you want, but I need 2 loaves of bread right now, so I'm gonna make this one into a loaf of bread too. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna pull the head down, pull in the shoulders, press it out with the palms of my hand, and then roll it really, really tight. Like I said, this will give you a really nice, tight crumb, really good texture to your bread. Now just tuck in the ends, pinch the seams together so it doesn't come apart. Kind of roll it a little bit, smack it out so it relaxes. Looks great. I'm just gonna throw it into my bread pan. There we go. Okay, so here are my 2 loaves of bread. They are fresh milled flour, honey whole wheat. These are gonna be fantastic. Now, I'm gonna let these rise on my counter just like this for about 45 minutes to an hour. Okay, so I'm gonna just watch them, and when they've risen just a little bit above the rim of the pan, then they will be ready to go into the oven. My oven is gonna be preheating to 350 degrees, and then these will be ready once they've risen. Here is our fresh milled flour honey wheat bread. Look how well it's risen. It is ready to go into the oven. I'm gonna pop this in the oven at 350 degrees for about 35 to 40 minutes. I just got our loaves of fresh milled flour sandwich bread, honey whole wheat, out of the oven. Look how fantastic these loaves look. They look incredible. They're a beautiful golden brown color. They're risen nicely. This is really great whole wheat bread right here. Okay, so the next step is to turn them out from the bread pans. Oh yes, that's why I oil up my bread pans so good, because I love when they just slide out. There's no breaking, anything like that. So let's see, you see the bottom, the sides. Oh, this looks so good. It's nice and soft. I like this bread. Okay, let me get this one out. And then I'm gonna let these cool before I cut into them, because you really get the best crumb and crust and all that if you let them cool a little bit before you cut into them. But look at that bread. Oh, it's squishy. Oh my goodness. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna rub my crust all over with this butter. And then, I don't like to use cooling racks. I prefer just to cover them with a tea towel and kind of let the warmth and the condensation make them even softer. So it'll give you a really nice soft crust, and I really like nice soft crusts. I don't like the cooling racks because you kind of get like a crunchy, dried out crust. I don't like that. So I'm gonna let these sit here for just a little bit, and then I will cut into them and let you see the insides. Here are gorgeous loaves of fresh milled flour sandwich bread, honey whole wheat. I'm gonna cut into it now so you can take a look at the inside. Oh my goodness, this is so nice. Oh yes, look at that. Isn't that amazing? That is some nice crumb, nice tight crumb, no big air holes or anything like that. Oh, and it's soft and fluffy. I don't want to squish it too much, but oh, this is really nice sandwich bread right here. Let me cut another. Look at that. I mean, it doesn't get more perfect than that. That is some nice sandwich bread. I could eat some peanut butter and jelly, a turkey sandwich, egg salad. Oh, just anything is going to be really good on this. And it is so healthy. This is such good, wholesome, filling, heart-healthy bread right here. So, thank you so much for being here with me on Robyn on the Farm, and thanks for making this fresh milled flour sandwich bread with me. I'll put the recipe down in the description so you can make this. Let me know how it turns out for you. I think it's just fantastic. Thanks so much for being here on Robyn on the Farm, and I will see you next time.
Robyn's in the kitchen, dough beneath her hands, wheat from the fields and eggs from her land. Sunlight through the window, a warm golden glow. She's working hard to make that dough. With flour on her apron, loving each knead, ground wheat fresh, sowing her seed. The smell of fresh bread rises in the air. Simple life without a care. In Robyn's kitchen, dreams come alive, each loaf of bread